right. This one was pretty easy. Dante Fowler. They signed him in 2020. He signs a 3-year, $45 million deal with the Falcons, and he just gives them in 2 years with Atlanta. He gets 7.5 sacks. That's it. That's all he does for Atlanta. And then he resurfaces with the Cowboys in 2022, where he plays slightly better, but obviously gets a cheaper deal, all that stuff. But the money he signs with the Falcons is just insane, and only gives them 7.5 sacks over 2 years. So that was a pretty easy pick here.
Yeah, I went with the same guy. If this was about bad draft picks, and then we can have a much longer discussion about the Atlanta Falcons. But yeah, just another guy that I feel like sacks in general are kind of overrated. So if you see a guy that's he's a 5-sack guy, 6-sack, and then all of a sudden gets 10, 12, 13, you're like, all right, let me go back and look at some of these sacks, because I think so much of getting the actual sack is luck versus how consistent are you with quarterback hits and pressures and all that other stuff and tackles for loss. I feel like one of the big like, I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but I feel like a tackle for loss should be counted the same as a sack, because essentially it's the same thing.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Maybe it's like, because it's a sack, there's more potential for a big play that you're stopping. So people will say, a guy that had 10 sacks and 2 tackles for loss is better than a guy that had 10 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. So I think just sacks in general are an overrated stat, but whatever. That's not this conversation. So
that's a conversation for another bit.
For another pod. Next, the Carolina Panthers. Who'd you pick? I was surprised by your pick, to be honest.
Really? Okay. I went with Robbie Anderson. So he comes off a great. He was traded to them. He comes off a great 2020 season, and then signs a 2-year, $29.5 million extension. And I mean, he came off a great year in 2020. So I'm not knocking the 2020 trade. He has 95 catches for over 1,000 yards. Looks to be a wide receiver 1 or 2. But then in 2021, he doesn't put up great numbers. He has 53 receptions for 519 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then in 2022, he has some bizarre behavior. He gets kicked out of a game. And then within a few days later, he gets traded to the Cardinals. So within a year, he goes from this potential wide receiver 1 to bottom of the barrel on the Cardinals after some bizarre behavior. And that's why he was my pick. Like you signed him basically to be almost a wide receiver 1 on your team, and he doesn't live up to that after he puts up a really good season.
Yeah. So he earned the contract, and I think the only reason I wouldn't put him on this list, or I didn't pick him, one thing is just to be different. We couldn't all have the same pick, just to make things more interesting. But I feel like his dip in play directly correlated with the dip in play of the quarterbacks in Carolina. I want to say he had his big year with Cam Newton, if I'm not mistaken. And then
I believe so.
Yeah, and then they get Teddy Bridgewater, okay. Sam Darnold, meh. Baker Mayfield, not so good, at least in Carolina. So,
where's Robbie Anderson now?
I don't even, Arizona, I think.
I don't think he's in the league. I think he's out of the league.
I think he was last on Arizona.
Yep.
I think this year he actually changed his name. His name is Chosen now, not Robbie.
Sorry.
So maybe he found God. So good for him. But I think it was kind of harsh.
He's on the Dolphins.
The Dolphins. There you go. So he was traded to the Cardinals and then bounced around. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of harsh for him. So I had Gerald McCoy. So this is another guy we talked about him earlier. He bounced around a bit. He signed with the Cowboys after this. He signed, with the Raiders. Didn't make it. I think he got suspended for PEDs before the end of the season, or before the end of training camp or preseason. Again, we just keep talking about the Raiders here, which is a common theme. That's probably why they've had so many struggles. They're tied to all these guys that are bad free agents. But another also division rival, had a long career with the Bucks, played really well for them. He signs a 1-year, $10.25 million deal in 2019 with the Panthers. He has 5 sacks, which is pretty good for an interior defensive lineman, but doesn't live up to the big deal. But he's only there for a season before signing with the Dallas Cowboys, and also underachieving there.